The Oregon Ducks football team thinks it can win the Big Ten in its first year, and it can. And it's already won the transfer portal. Hands down. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and a play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So on today's program, we are brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So Oregon's killing it in the transfer portal. We're going to look at this in depth. Got some bad news for Nebraska, and quarterback search continues at Iowa. And we've got Tuesday tweets. You don't want to miss those. Those are one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite segments of the whole week. Look, it's long been our preseason position here since the last season, really, for football at Locked On Big Ten, that the Oregon Ducks are going to be at the forefront of those challenging for the Big Ten football championship this year. In fact, their October 12th date against Ohio State, with all due respect to Michigan versus Ohio State, may be the game of the year in the Big Ten this year. Now, as you all know, this will be Oregon's first year in the Big Ten, along with Washington and USC and UCLA. And wouldn't that be something if Dan Lanning and company were able to pull this off in their very first year and win a Big Ten championship? It'd be incredible, that's for sure. So the Ducks may already be winning something as they get ready for Big Ten play. They're winning the transfer portal. They are lights out in the portal. Some have ranked Oregon number 2 in the country when it comes to roster improvements via the transfer portal, with a couple new additions this week, as a matter of fact. They are Alabama safety Peyton Woodyard and Michigan State defensive tackle Derek Harmon, who we spoke about yesterday, but both are taking their talents to Oregon. These were announcements as of just this past weekend, so they're very excited. Oregon, it was already loaded. They're getting more loaded. Woodard is interesting because he originally committed to Georgia, but then he flipped and was part of Alabama's 2024 recruiting class this past December as a 4-star safety. And he ended up being an early spring enrollee. He just got there in Tuscaloosa. And then following spring football in late April, he said, this isn't for me. I'm out of here. Who's this Nick Saban I used to hear of? He's not here. So he's gone. Going to Oregon. Football analysts feel that Woodard has an extremely high football IQ in addition to his skill set. Regarding Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle from Michigan State, we mentioned him yesterday in our podcast. Go back and check it out on Locked On Big Ten. He has decided to leave Michigan State, but going to be staying in the Big Ten and go to Oregon. So the Oregon Ducks have added 14 players through the transfer portal during this offseason, and they trail only Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, by those who think that Oregon has the second best transfer portal in the country, people that keep track of this stuff. So Ole Miss number 1, Oregon right there at number 2. And then there's starting to be a gap between other Big Ten teams. We'll talk about that in a moment. Of the 14 kids that are coming into Oregon, 1 was a 5-star, 6 were 4 stars, another 6 were 3 stars back in the day. So a lot of talent, very talented kids coming in. In addition to those recent add-ons to Oregon's roster, of course, or including in that list, is former Oklahoma quarterback Dillon Gabriel. People are very excited about him this year, who with any success, he can immediately be one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. We're going to do a podcast breaking down who really is the best quarterback in the Big Ten. And I think there are a lot of questions at a lot of schools. So he may just step right into that spot. And his talented backup as well comes via the portal. UCLA's quarterback Dante Moore. He was a 5-star recruit in high school, and now he's going to back up Gabriel, who will come in and take over for NFL first-round pick Bo Nix. So they just keep it going there at quarterback. Plus, he'll have former 5-star Texas A&M player Evan Stewart to throw to. He's another guy that's coming in. On the defensive side of the ball, they picked up Washington corner Jabbar Muhammad. Take note of the players that I'm mentioning here, all coming to Oregon. These aren't players from small schools that are coming in as Band-Aids to cover up gaps and holes in the roster. This bears repeating. These kids are coming from Oklahoma, UCLA, Washington, Alabama, Texas A&M, Michigan State. These are some pretty good players that are coming in. They just, for whatever reason, it didn't work out where they were at, and they're coming to Oregon. Dan Lanning he's cherry picking some strong talent from major conferences and schools. So far, the Ducks transfer class is head and shoulders above everybody else in the Big Ten. I just told you they're number 2 in the country, Ole Miss and Oregon. And then where are the other Big Ten teams on that list? There's a bit of a drop off, and then there's Ohio State, and then there's Washington. And again, this is for all these lists for people that keep track of such things, rating points, and it's very complicated, but we're just listing it here. So basically, Oregon up top, a little bit of a drop off, Ohio State, Washington, and then everybody else in the Big Ten. So get yourself ready for the upcoming 2024 college football season. It's going to arrive fast and furious. It's going to be here before you're ready for it. The Ducks open up August 31st by hosting Idaho. Boise State comes into Oregon the following week, and then the Ducks travel to rival Oregon State, who's going to feel like a jilted lover because the Beavers team they left hole in the bag. They're one of 2 teams left in the Pac-12, and seeing everybody else going off for greener pastures and better times ahead. So I wonder if that game's going to be pretty tough, actually, because I know Oregon State's going to come to play. Anyway, I just love sitting here talking about a couple of matchups right away because it's going to be here before you know it, and we're all very excited about it. Oregon's first official Big Ten game is September 28th at UCLA before hosting Michigan State on October 5th. And I already told you, because we talked about this about 3 or 4 days ago on our podcast, like most of Oregon's home football games are already sold out. The game against Ohio State's the big one I think the Ohio State athletic director said they got like 15 different zip codes and their database of people buying tickets. So Ohio State's coming. They're chewing up some of those tickets, but I think Oregon will be ready. The fan base at Autzen Stadium will be ready. And I'm always reminded of a statement by Dan Lanning that always struck me. I've mentioned it several times here on this podcast. He says, "Hey, how are you going to adjust going to the Big Ten?" And he just very confidently said, "No, the Big Ten's going to have to adjust to us. We're going to be ready to go. Oregon's got to," and look, another unique thing about Oregon, let's face it, how many times do you lose a quarterback to the first round of the NFL draft? So he's good enough to be a first round pick, and Bo Nix, he's gone. You got to replace him. And you're feeling this confident about everything because things are in place here on this roster. This is a pretty solid roster for Oregon. They're ready to come in on both sides of the ball, too. All this talk about, hey, you got to play defense in the Big Ten. Pac-12 teams don't play defense. Oregon does. You Oregon fans have heard me say that probably 2 or 3 times now in the last couple of months. They were ranked top 10 in the country in defense. We all talk about in the Big Ten how, it's Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State, 1, 2, 3 in the country in scoring defense last year. Well, just a couple more down, Oregon coming at number 10. They play defense as well as the offense. And I think Dan Lanning has this roster just about where he wants it. And it's getting even better with the 2 new pickups and the transfer portal just this past weekend. So I'm excited. If you're an Oregon Duck fan, you got to be very excited. In fact, I know you are, because I know for a fact that we've picked up a lot of subscribers and a lot of viewers who are former Pac-12 fans and Oregon fans. And I could tell from the Oregon fan base that you all are very, very excited about this upcoming season. And you've got it in the back of your brain also. Like, man, this would be really cool to go into the Big Ten and win it, and just win it in your first year. It'd be remarkable if they could do it. That's what's on their plate right now. All right. If you like what you are catching here, tell your friends about us, first of all, especially if you're new. Subscribe, especially if you're new. You just click on the subscribe button and you're in. No other information, and you're in the Big Ten with us here on Locked On Big Ten. Subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Got an injury update now. It's official for the Huskers. Nobody's happy about it, but we'll tell you about it. And Iowa's next possible quarterback visiting today. We'll have all those details. That's all coming up right here as we continue on Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. All right. I want to tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel's very exciting. It's winner take all time right now. Right? It's the playoffs. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs are getting intense. FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 of bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 on you can bet on to bet on spreads and money lines and player props. Anything you can think of, it's right there. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on and make every playoff shot count. I'll give you a couple tips here going into tonight. The Cavs are at the Celtics. Celtics are 11.5-point favorites. I actually like the Celtics in this one to cover. And the Mavs and the Thunder is a little more tricky for me. The Thunder are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 217.5. If this were a regular season game, I'd take the over. Not in the playoffs. Unders have been hitting at a big clip. So take the unders on a lot of these. So once again, tonight, Cavs, Celtics, take the Celtics minus 11.5, Mavs, Thunder. I don't know about the 3.5 points, but I do feel good about the under on 217.5. That is FanDuel. So check that out. FanDuel.com/locked on. And it is America's #1 sportsbook. I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget to check out our website. It's you can get your favorite Big Ten merch there, and all of our podcasts are right there, easy for you to check out. It is Talk Big Ten, number 10, talkbig10.com. Let's talk about the Iowa quarterback situation again. We touched on this yesterday. We've been touching on it, and this is a big deal over there. So big. Again, we talk about 2 days in a row. Probable starter Cade McNamara. Okay, he's not fully recovered yet from his knee injury suffered in Week 5 against Michigan State last year. And backup Deacon Hill, he's portaled out. Plus, the couple things making Iowa fans a little bit nervous here. McNamara has suffered 3 injuries in the last 18 months. And the other thing that's making them nervous is the Hawkeyes have been really extremely quiet in the transfer portal. They don't be seeming to be seeking out reinforcements in the transfer portal with any kind of aggression. Now, yesterday we did mention how Wildcat quarterback Brendan Sullivan, he might be a guy that makes sense for the Hawkeyes. He was the presumed starter at Northwestern and surprised many when he decided after spring ball to hit the bricks and portal out of there. Maybe he didn't want to play in some sort of bleachered stadium next to the lake on the lacrosse field because Ryan Field's being demolished as we speak and a new one. Maybe he wanted to play in a big-time environment. I don't know. We'll have to ask him. But we mentioned yesterday he's from Michigan, and he's got recruiting ties with Hawkeyes offensive coordinator Tim Lester when he was the coach at Western Michigan. Now, Sullivan has a lot of experience. In over 2 years, he played in 13 games. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards and 10 touchdown passes. Now, another reason that he should eye the Hawkeyes, in addition to Cade McNamara's health history, is the fact that McNamara, this is his last year of eligibility since transferring over from Michigan. Okay. So Sullivan's got 2 years left. McNamara's got 1 year left. Sullivan plays his cards right. He can inherit the starting job here at Iowa. So, and we have confirmation that he is visiting today. His dad says he's visiting Iowa today, Tuesday through Wednesday. So that's the visit. Yesterday, we talked about the possibility. Today, we're telling you it's going to happen today. Now, there's another intriguing name out there. When we say intriguing name, we mean it literally. Oklahoma quarterback General Booty. General Booty just entered the transfer portal, and he's been a 2-year backup, and he seems to be looking for smaller schools where he can start. But he certainly would be interested in a bigger school like Iowa if the interest was mutual. Before backing up at Oklahoma, he did play JUCO ball at Tyler in Texas, threw for 3,100 yards and 25 touchdowns in his only season there. This week, we finally received confirmation of what many at Nebraska had already feared, and that was wide receiver Demetrius Bell. Suffered a season-ending injury in the Huskers spring game. I was watching it when it happened, and Matt Rule was up in the booth talking to the broadcast guys, and the injury happened. And it turns out it's for sure it's bad. It's a season ender. Defensive back Bly Hill also was injured in that game. But back to Bell, he was just starting to figure things out. So the timing of his injury was particularly bad. He was on the verge of his second season with the Huskers after sitting out last year as a redshirt, just chomping at the bit to get on the field for the first time, and goes out and ends up getting hurt like that. You feel awful for a kid like that. He was a 4-star recruit, chose Nebraska over Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and Kentucky. Think about that. A wide receiver choosing Nebraska over those schools. So he wanted to be there. He was ready to go. And now he'll have to wait until 2025 to get on the field again. So hope things work out for him. Some great news for the Indiana Hoosiers. Cornerback D'Angelo Pons. He commits to Indiana after a solid season at James Madison. He was kind of taking his time on where to go. He was named to several all-freshman rosters. He was second-team All-Sun Belt, and he had 15 pass breakups last year, and that was 11th in the country. Picked off 2 passes and made 51 tackles, so he's not afraid to get in there and mix it up a little bit. He is the 12th James Madison player to follow former head coach Kurt Cignetti to Bloomington. He's now the head coach there. So he's getting the band back together. Had a very successful run at James Madison. We'll see how they do at the next level in the Big Ten, but at a school like Indiana. This is a great get for the Hoosiers and their defense as well. Also, another side story, a defensive lineman, Roquan Buckley. Grew up in Michigan, went to Nebraska. Do you know how many players in the last 50 years grew up in Michigan and went to Nebraska? 4. 4 in the last 50 years. Well, he did it. And now he's coming back home. He's going to play defensive tackle at Michigan State. So 2 things to note. Very few players have transferred out of Nebraska at all this year. He's one of them. Second, Michigan State, once thought to be pretty strong at defensive line, just lost a couple of players. Simeon Brown, of course, Derek Harbin, who we spoke about earlier. So up front, they needed some help in the portal with the defense. And this is good news for Jonathan Smith and the Michigan State Spartans. Buckley, by the way, he's huge. 6'5", 295 pounds. Played in 8 games last season for the Huskers. So good break there for Michigan State to land him. Hey, if you're sitting around all day, if you work at home and you got TVs on, the talking heads from ESPN or maybe Fox Sports, they get a little irritating, don't they? They're yelling, screaming, talking over each other. You got to turn down the volume. How about just turn them off and go check out Locked On Sports Today? It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app we discussed. Part of the Lockdown Podcast Network, your team every day. Time for one of my favorite segments that we do each and every week. It is Tuesday Tweets. We'll see if your tweet made it. And by the way, if you don't follow me, please do at Talk Big Ten, number 10. All that coming up in 1 minute right here on Lockdown Big Ten. Monopoly Go. We all played Monopoly, the board game, as a kid. Now it's next level stuff. Digital, electronic. It's Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go. It is fun. It is a blast. You can team up with your friends. There are timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more prizes you get. They've got unique sticker packages for complete albums you can turn in for prizes when they're done. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting your friends when you smash their buildings or even heist their vaults like a good old Ocean's 11 movie. Plus Monopoly Go. It just feels new and exciting every day. It's always changing. Different tournaments, different challenges. And you can have your own unique mini games as well. And there's always timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers and everything. You win, or you can have rent frenzies. A lot of cool stuff out here. Just check it out and explore it and play with your friends. There's always something to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. It is Monopoly Go. All right, it is time for one of my favorite segments of the week. That is Tuesday Tweets. I'm going to put them on screen here. I'm going to read them and describe them in case you're audio only today. And we'll put it up here right now. And a couple of things we want to put up here right now. Here we go. There we go. Add to the screen, go full screen. Let's take a look at this. Tuesday Tweets. This is from at Big Ten Baseball. It's a very colorful graphic of the Big Ten baseball standings this weekend. And look at the top 5 or 6 teams. It is stacked. A lot of good teams in the Big Ten this year with baseball. Illinois on top of that list at 13-5 as of May 6th. All right, here is at PFF College. This is a list of the most tight ends by school currently on NFL rosters. Georgia leads the way with 6, as does Stanford. A little surprised by Stanford. Iowa at number 5. We know that. We're not surprised at all. Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson. The list goes on and on. It is a tight ends factory over there at Iowa. Further down the list, Penn State has 4 players in the NFL at tight end. Washington has 4 as well. Here's from at College Football Home. Former James Madison transfer D'Angelo Pons, who we just mentioned. 52 tackles, 2 interceptions, 12 pass breakups, a fumble recovery in the 2023 season. Coming to follow Kurt Cignetti at IU from James Madison's picture of him committed. Here he comes. This is a tweet from at Champ Circle U of M, Champion Circle. Congratulations, University of Michigan lacrosse, the men's team, Big Ten champions, with a nice celebratory picture there. Here we have from at the real Don Thomas. It is a picture of Michigan State and Michigan playing hockey a few weeks ago. Says there's a lot to be made about Michigan beating Michigan State 49-0 in football. But we mustn't forget that Michigan also ended their top 4 hockey team season in spectacular fashion as well, rubbing it in. Go Blue. Here's one from at Michigan Go blog. Is a picture of Sharon Moore, and is a list of all of his goals. And these are his goals in his first year as the head coach. Hashtag Go Blue. He says, quote, the goals are to beat our rivals, win the Big Ten, beat Ohio State, make the playoff, win the playoff. So the goals stay the same, and the process in which we do things will stay the same. All right, those were Jim Harbaugh's goals. Those are his goals. Nothing new. And 15-0, it worked, right? Try it again. This is from at the Buckeye Nut. This is a picture of David Sanders Jr., the number 1 offensive tackle in the 2025 class. He's visiting Ohio State this weekend and visited Ohio State in March. And Justin Fry was in, see him this past week. So we'll see what happens with the Buckeyes. Here's another one from at Barstool, Illinois. It says, bang, 7'1" center Tomislav Isevich has committed to the Fighting Illini. Here's a picture of him. He's from Croatia. If you're in the Big Ten, you got to have a 7-footer these days. Purdue started all this nonsense. Now everybody's Zach Edey. Now everybody's got to get a 7-footer. Yeah, you got to have one now. We're going back to the big man in the Big Ten. Forget shooters. Let's see here. This is at Michigan State content. It says domination, hashtag go green, and has some upset-looking Michigan fans. So we alluded to the fact that, we just read that Michigan, of course, beat Michigan State 49-0 in football, but Michigan State basketball, hockey, and baseball combined record versus Michigan in 2024, 9-3. Hey, how about that? Pretty good. And here is at PFF College, schools with multiple players on PFF's 2025 NFL Draft Big Board. We just got done with the NFL Draft 2024. We're already looking ahead to 2025. And according to them, they've got 6 players on the top 50 from Ohio State. You got 4 from Oregon and Michigan. Notre Dame's in there as well. And let's see, 2 from Iowa and Penn State, among others. So there you have it. That is a look at our Tuesday tweet segment that we do each and every Tuesday. One of our favorites. If you have one that you want to send my way, hit me up at Twitter at TalkBig10 number 10. Always love it. If it's good, I'll be glad to put it on. And you can also reach out and comment to me there, or the comments on YouTube. And don't forget our website, talkbig10 number 10.com. You see the scroll on the bottom of the page if you're watching on video on YouTube, talkbig10 number 10.com. So many ways for you to reach out. While you're here, before you go, two things. If you can do me two favors. Number one, could you subscribe? So just click it, and it's free, and we're in our Big Ten club together each, okay? And also, if you don't mind hanging around, watch another edition of Locked On Big Ten right after this one. And tell your friends about us. I lied. There were three things I asked. Tell your friends about us, that we're out here, and follow this podcast after you subscribe right now on your favorite podcast app. And you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Audio visions are out at 4 a.m. Eastern. Video on YouTube comes out at 6 a.m. Eastern. And after you're done with all that, I don't mean to give you too much to do. Check out Locked On and their first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube called Locked On Sports Today. I am sure you will love it. Always got some great football news around the corner. Thank you for our visit today. I enjoyed it as always. I hope you did too. Again, don't forget to tell your friends about us, and I'll see you again tomorrow right here on Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman.